Lifey, it doesn't reward the man who shouts the loudest. It rewards the man who listens, who observes, who waits. I learned early, you don't have to announce your next move. You don't have to beg for attention. You just need to be ready, and when the time comes, you move. This is about restraint, patience, control. Because when you master the art of silence, everything else falls into place naturally. Let me tell you something about power, real power. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's not about announcing who you are or what you're going to do. No, real power is when they don't know, when they can't predict you, when they can't read you. And nothing builds that kind of power faster than silence. You see, people fear what they can't understand. They get uncomfortable with the unknown. And the moment you stop giving them answers, they start making up their own. That's the magic of silence. It forces people to fill in the blanks themselves. And let me tell you, their imagination will paint you 10 times bigger, stronger, and smarter than anything you could have told them yourself. I've walked into rooms where everybody's trying to prove something. They're throwing their achievements on the table, name dropping, bragging, puffing up their chest. And me, I sit back. I watch. I don't need to tell them who I am. The moment you start explaining yourself to everybody, you're already losing ground. Because now they know where to place you, how to measure you, and what category to put you in. But when you keep your mouth shut, when you give them nothing to grab onto, they start wondering. They start asking, who is this guy? What's his story? Why isn't he saying anything? That wondering, that's curiosity. And curiosity, my friend, is power. Silence is a kind of armor. It keeps your intentions hidden. It protects your weaknesses. It makes people think twice before coming at you because they don't know what you're holding. And in a world where everybody's broadcasting their next move, the man who moves in quiet, he's a ghost. You can't fight what you can't see coming. I've seen it in Hollywood. The ones who talk too much, who overshare, who let everybody into their business. They get picked apart. Every word gets twisted. Every sentence becomes ammunition. But the ones who stay quiet, they last longer. They make moves behind closed doors. They let their work speak for itself. And by the time the world finds out, it's already done. That's how you play this game. But silence isn't just about keeping your mouth closed. It's about controlling the energy you give off. Even without words, you're speaking. Your eyes, your posture, your presence, all of it is telling a story. And when you master that, when you can command attention without saying a single word, you've reached a level most people never touch. There's a scene I remember from my life. I won't say where, I won't say when, but I was in a negotiation. Now, most people in that room thought you win negotiations by talking, by convincing, by persuading, by filling the air with reasons why you deserve what you're asking for. I stayed silent. I let the other side keep talking. And here's the thing, the longer the silence stretched, the more they talked themselves into my position. That's the effect silence has. It makes the other person do the work. The truth is, people can't handle not knowing what's going on in your head. Silence makes them project their thoughts onto you. If they respect you, they'll assume you're thinking something brilliant. If they fear you, they'll assume you're planning something dangerous. Either way, you win. And let's be real. There's a hunger in human beings for mystery. Think about it. The movies you can't stop watching, the characters you can't forget, they're not the ones who told you everything about themselves in the first 5 minutes. They're the ones who made you wonder, the ones you had to study to figure out piece by piece. That's how you make yourself unforgettable. But most people ruin that for themselves. They talk because they're afraid. Afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of looking weak, afraid that if they don't speak up, they'll be overlooked. But silence isn't weakness. Silence is a choice. It's you deciding, I don't need to explain myself to you. I don't need to prove myself to you. And when people feel that, they start respecting you more even if they can't explain why. Now, don't get me wrong, silence is not about being invisible. It's about being unreadable. It's about creating space between who you are and what the world thinks you are. And in that space, that's where you move. That's where you strategize. That's where you build your next step without interference. When you speak too soon, you give away the element of surprise. When you reveal your plan, you give people the chance to ruin it. But when you stay quiet, you protect it until it's strong enough to stand on its own. That's why some of the most powerful moves in history were made in silence, without warning. I've had people come up to me after years and say, man, I never knew you were working on that. I never saw it coming, and that's exactly how I wanted it. Because if you can see me coming, you can prepare for me. But if I move in silence, by the time you realize what's happening, it's already too late. And that's why mystery is such a weapon. It keeps you in control. It forces the world to react to you instead of you reacting to the world. It flips the power dynamic without you even lifting a finger. So when you find yourself in a situation where everybody's fighting to be heard, step back. Let them exhaust themselves. Let them put all their cards on the table. You just sit there, quiet, unrateable, untouchable, and trust me, they'll start thinking you know something they don't. They'll start giving you credit for ideas you haven't even shared. That's how strong the mystery is. And here's the most important part. Silence doesn't just protect you from others. It protects you from yourself. Because let's face it, we all say things in the heat of the moment we wish we could take back. We all reveal too much when we're emotional, when we're trying to impress, when we're trying to fill the space. But if you train yourself to value silence, to use it as your default, you'll find that you make fewer mistakes and you gain more ground. You have to understand, silence isn't empty. It's loaded. It's pregnant with possibility. It's the pause before the strike, the calm before the storm. It's the gap where people start to imagine all the ways you could move, all the ways you could win. And sometimes that imagination is more intimidating than anything you could ever say out loud. So the next time you feel that urge to explain yourself, to prove yourself, to let the world know what you're up to, stop. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them sit in the dark while you move in the light they can't see. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody's fighting to get their words out first. But let me tell you something. The one who listens, really listens, is the one who walks away with the power. See, most people think listening is passive. They think it's sitting there nodding your head while you wait for your turn to speak. No, that's fake listening. That's just waiting. Real listening, that's active. That's deliberate. That's war without raising your voice. When you truly listen, you're pulling information they don't even know they're giving you. You're catching the hesitation in their voice. You're watching how they blink when they lie. You're paying attention to the words they avoid, the subjects they dance around. That's where the truth lies, not in what people say, but in what they don't say. I've been in rooms where I didn't say a single word for 20 minutes. And by the time I opened my mouth, I already knew exactly who was in charge, who was insecure, and who was desperate to be seen. I didn't need to guess because they told me, not with their mouths, but with their behavior. You can't learn that when you're too busy talking about yourself. And here's the thing, talking is like spending money. Every time you open your mouth, you're paying with information. Sometimes you're paying with your intentions. Sometimes you're paying with your weaknesses. And the more you talk, the more you spend until you've got nothing left to hold on to. But listening is like collecting. It's stacking chips. It's building a bank of knowledge that you can use when the moment's right. I learned this early. Back in the day, I was in a meeting, big names, big stakes. I had a whole speech ready in my head. I thought I was going to walk in there and impress them with how smart I sounded. But something told me, just wait. Don't rush. Let them speak first. And I sat there silent, letting them fill the air. You know what happened? They told me exactly what they wanted to hear. They gave me the blueprint to win them over. And when I finally spoke, I didn't waste a word. I hit every single thing they cared about. I walked out of that room with exactly what I came for. That's the kind of power listening gives you. When you let other people go first, they reveal their hand. You see their strengths. You see their flaws. You see the openings they didn't even know they left. And all you had to do was keep your mouth shut long enough to notice. Now, some people will tell you that to be respected, you have to speak up all the time. That silence makes you invisible. That if you don't keep talking, people will forget you. That's not true. What people remember isn't how much you talk. It's how well you talk. It's what happens when you finally break the silence. Because when you don't speak often, every word you say lands heavily. Every sentence carries more weight. People lean in because they know you don't waste breath. And let me tell you something else. Listening disarms people. Have you ever noticed how when someone feels truly heard, their guard drops? They start sharing things they wouldn't tell anybody else. They start trusting you. Not because you promised them anything, but because you gave them the one thing most people can't, your full attention. That's another thing. Listening is rare now. Everybody's distracted. Phones buzzing, eyes darting, thinking about what they're going to say next. But if you can give someone the gift of your undivided attention, they will give you more than they planned to, more than they intended to. And that information, that's leverage, that's currency. I've been in situations where I didn't need to win an argument. I just needed to let the other person talk long enough to realize they were wrong. And the beauty is, when they figure it out themselves, you don't have to convince them. They'll walk right into your conclusion because you gave them the space to get there. Listening also makes you patient. You learn to be comfortable in the quiet. You're not rushing to fill the gaps. You're not afraid of those little moments where nothing's being said. Because in those moments, people feel the need to fill the silence. And every word they throw into it is a piece of themselves they're handing over to you. The truth is, the man who talks too much is predictable. You know where he stands. You know what he's about. You know what buttons to push. But the man who listens, he's a shadow. You can't get a read on him. You can't tell if he agrees with you, if he's against you, if he's planning something you can't see. That's unsettling, and unsettling someone gives you the upper hand. There's a saying I've always remembered. When you speak, you tell the world what you know. When you listen, the world tells you what it knows. And if you can gather more of what the world knows than anybody else in the room, you will always be the one with the advantage. Listening isn't glamorous. It's not flashy. It doesn't get applause in the moment. But over time, it makes you unstoppable. Because while everybody else is trying to be noticed, you're learning, you're studying, you're collecting the kind of understanding that lets you strike at exactly the right moment with exactly the right move. So the next time you feel the urge to jump in, to cut someone off, to prove you know something, stop. Let them talk. Let them pour everything out. Let them think they're leading the conversation. Because the truth is, when you're listening the right way, you're leading the whole time. You're guiding without them even realizing it. And when the time comes to speak, you won't just be talking. You'll be closing the deal, ending the argument, winning the game. That's what listening does. It puts you in a position where your voice becomes the final word, not just more noise in the middle of the storm. Most people, they're in a rush. They want the win right now. They want the reward without the wait. They want the prize without the process. And that's exactly why most people never hold on to real power. Because power doesn't come to the man who moves fast. It comes to the man who moves right. Strategic patience is a weapon. It's not laziness, it's not hesitation, it's timing. It's knowing that the right move at the wrong time is the same as the wrong move altogether. It's understanding that you can't force the fruit to ripen. You have to let it grow, you have to let it reach its moment. And when it's ready, you act. I've seen too many people ruin themselves because they moved too soon. They couldn't stand the quiet, couldn't stand the wait, so they jumped. And you know what happens when you jump too early? You land in a place you weren't prepared for. You face problems you didn't have the strength to solve yet. The opportunity was there, but you weren't ready to hold it. Patience is about building while you wait. It's not just sitting around, it's preparing. Stacking your skills, stacking your resources, stacking your mind so that when the moment comes, you don't just take it, you own it. I remember early in my career, I had chances, small roles, quick opportunities. They looked tempting. They would have put my face out there faster. But I knew those parts weren't built to last. If I took them, I'd be just another name on a list. I wanted more than a quick spotlight. I wanted a legacy, so I waited. I trained. I studied. I built a foundation. And when the right role came, I was ready to deliver something so strong they couldn't forget me. That's the difference between chasing and positioning. Strategic patience means you're not moved by other people's timelines. Just because they're making noise doesn't mean you have to. Just because they're making moves doesn't mean you're behind. You don't measure yourself against their clock. You measure yourself against your goal. The truth is, when you wait long enough, people reveal themselves. The fake ones burn out. The pretenders get exposed. The impatient make mistakes. And you're still standing, still moving forward, holding your cards close. That's what patience does. It lets the chaos clear so you can see exactly where to strike. And make no mistake, patience is pressure. It's not easy to hold back when you're ready to go. It's not easy to stay still when the world is screaming for movement. But the man who can wait while others rush, that man becomes dangerous. because he's not driven by impulse. He's driven by precision. There's a kind of quiet power in sitting at the table and letting everyone else make the first move. You watch, you study. You see who's bluffing. You see who's desperate. And you keep your hand hidden until it's the exact moment to play it. That's how you win without wasting moves. Patience also tests your discipline. Anyone can wait when they have no choice. But can you wait when the chance is right there in front of you, but you know it's not the right one? Can you walk away from something that looks good now because you know something greater is coming later? That's the real test. That's the part most people fail. I've had times when the world thought I had disappeared. They thought I was done. They thought I'd stopped moving. But in reality, I was building. I was sharpening. I was watching the field shift. And when I stepped back in, it wasn't luck that made the timing perfect. It was patience. Strategic patience is also about survival. If you move too soon, you expose yourself. You put your weaknesses in the open before they're fortified. You give your enemies a target before you've built your shield. But when you wait, you let your position grow stronger and theirs grow weaker. Sometimes the smartest move you can make is no move at all. But let me be clear, patience is not about being passive. You don't just sit there waiting for something to happen to you. You prepare while you wait. You get stronger while you wait. You make yourself impossible to ignore while you wait. So when the door finally opens, you don't hesitate. You walk through it like you've been there 100 times before. I've watched people lose everything because they couldn't resist the urge to move first. They thought the opportunity would disappear if they didn't grab it right away. But the truth is, the right opportunities, they don't disappear. They wait for the man who's ready for them. And if you're not ready, they're not yours to begin with. Strategic patience also makes your victories sweeter. Because you didn't just stumble into them, you earned them, you waited for them. You watched the world shift until every piece was in your favor. And when you finally act, it's not a gamble, it's a calculated strike. Think about it. Predators in the wild don't just run at the first movement they see. They stalk, they follow. They wait for the perfect angle, the perfect opening. Then, when it comes, they move so fast, so precisely, the prey doesn't even have time to react. That's how you have to think. That's how you have to move. And here's the beauty of patience. While you're waiting, while you're preparing, you're also protecting yourself from the wrong moves. You're avoiding the traps that catch the impatient. You're sidestepping the situations that look good now, but would have cost you later. You're letting other people rush into the mistakes you're smart enough to avoid. Patience gives you clarity. It makes you see the difference between what's urgent and what's important. And when you master that, you stop chasing and you start attracting. Because the man who's patient enough to wait for what he truly wants is the man who eventually gets it and keeps it. So understand, you don't have to take every shot you see. You don't have to chase every opportunity that crosses your path. The world will try to make you believe you're falling behind. But the truth is, the right move at the right time will put you ahead of everyone who rushed without thinking. That's what strategic patience does. It doesn't just win the moment, it wins the war. Real control doesn't come from force. It doesn't come from showing everyone how loud you can be or how much power you can flex. It comes from restraint, from the ability to hold back even when every muscle in your body is telling you to react. You see, most people believe that power is about doing whatever you want, whenever you want. They think it's about acting on every impulse, speaking on every thought, and hitting back the second someone pushes. That's not power. That's weakness dressed up as strength. Because real strength isn't about what you can do. It's about what you choose not to do. Restraint is control, and control is dangerous. Because when you don't react right away, you give yourself time to think, time to see the bigger picture, time to let the other person make mistakes while you stand still. I've been in situations where people wanted to get a rise out of me. They came at me with words meant to cut, with moves meant to provoke. They wanted me to lash out, to lose my composure, to give them a reaction they could use against me. And you know what I gave them? Nothing. Silence. A straight face. A calm that let them know they weren't even close to shaking me. That's the thing. When you show someone that they can't control you, you flip the power dynamic instantly. You take away their ability to pull your strings. And in that moment, you're the one in charge, even if you haven't said a single word. Restraint isn't easy. It's a fight you have with yourself, because your pride will tell you to clap back. Your ego will tell you to prove them wrong right now. Your emotions will scream for action. But if you can hold the line, if you can keep those feelings in check, you'll see that time always works in favor of the patient. Sometimes, restraint means walking away. Sometimes it means letting someone else think they've won when you know the game's not over. Sometimes it means holding on to information, to plans, to moves you could make, but choosing not to because you know the timing isn't right. I remember a moment years ago, a deal on the table, high stakes, a lot of pressure to commit. People in the room were pushing, wanting an answer right there and then. My gut told me the numbers weren't right. My mind told me I needed more time. Now, the easy thing would have been to agree, to get it over with, to lock it in so nobody thought I was stalling. But I didn't move. I told them I'd think on it. And when I came back, the deal had shifted in my favor, because while I waited, their position got weaker. That's restraint paying off. Restraint is about knowing that not every battle is worth fighting, and not every attack needs an answer. You've got to be selective. Every time you react, you're giving away energy, you're giving away focus. And if you waste it on the wrong things, you won't have anything left for the battles that truly matter. It's like in a game of chess. The beginner moves every piece they can, every chance they get, thinking constant motion means progress. But the master knows when to hold, when to keep a piece exactly where it is, when to let the opponent think they're in control, only to trap them when the moment is perfect. That's what restraint is. It's the discipline to wait for the move that matters most. And here's the thing, restraint builds respect. People might not like it in the moment, but deep down they know it takes strength to hold back. Anyone can blow up. Anyone can run their mouth. But not everyone can stay calm when the world's trying to pull them apart. That calm makes people think twice before stepping to you. It makes them wonder what's behind that quiet. It makes them cautious. Restraint also protects your reputation. Because no matter how justified you think your reaction is, the world doesn't see the build-up, they only see the explosion. And when you lose control, that's all they remember. But when you keep it together, when you refuse to let them see you crack, they remember that too. And it leaves an impression that lasts a lot longer. There's a kind of power in being underestimated. When you hold back, people might mistake your calm for weakness. Let them think you're not capable. Because when you finally choose to act, it'll be at a time and place where you can't lose. But restraint isn't about doing nothing forever. It's about doing the right thing at the right time. You've got to know the difference between patience and paralysis. Restraint means you're always watching, always calculating, always ready to move, but you don't waste your shot. In life, you'll meet people who live for instant gratification. They can't wait. They can't hold back. They make decisions in anger, in fear, and ego, and they pay for it every single time. But the man who masters restraint, he's dangerous because you can't predict him. You don't know when he's going to act. You don't know what he's holding back. And the uncertainty, that's where his power lies. I've learned that control through restraint is one of the most valuable skills you can ever develop. Because it keeps you from being a puppet to your emotions. It keeps you from being baited into traps. It gives you the space to think, to plan, to act when you're ready, not when they want you to. So when the moment comes where your pride is screaming, when the heat is rising and your hands are ready to move, remember this: the strongest man in the room is not the one who strikes first. It's the one who can stand there, take the hit, look you in the eye, and decide for himself when, where, and how he's going to answer. Power, it's not always in the words. Some of the strongest messages you'll ever send are sent without a single sound. That's what I call non-verbal dominance. The ability to command a room without opening your mouth. Because here's the truth. Before you say a word, people are already reading you. They're looking at how you walk, how you stand, how you look at them, how you carry yourself. And they're deciding who you are before they've even heard your voice. Now, most people think dominance is about aggression, about taking up space, about making yourself the center of attention. But real dominance, real presence is quiet. It's controlled. It's the kind of stillness that makes people uneasy because they can't tell what's going on behind your eyes. I've walked into rooms where everybody's trying to be the loudest, the funniest, the most noticeable. And I don't compete. I don't have to. I let them burn themselves out trying to be seen. And then, without saying a word, I shift the room by the way I stand, the way I look, the way I take my time with every movement. People feel that. They feel it in their chest, even if they can't explain why. Your body speaks for you. Your eyes speak for you. The way you shake a hand, the way you turn your head, the way you pause before responding, all of it is sending a signal. The question is, are you in control of the signal you're sending? Or are you just letting your nervous energy talk for you? Nonverbal dominance is about removing all that noise. No fidgeting, no rushed movements, no darting eyes. You move with intention, like everything you do is deliberate. You stand like you belong in any room you enter, because you do. I remember a time years ago when I was in a meeting with people I'd never met before. I didn't try to prove myself. I didn't rush to speak. I simply sat there listening, keeping my posture strong, my face calm, my eyes locked on whoever was speaking. And by the end of that meeting, people were looking to me for confirmation before they agreed to anything. Why? Because presence speaks louder than volume. Nonverbal dominance is about projecting control. You don't fold under pressure. You don't break eye contact when challenged. You don't let your body betray what your mind knows. You keep your breathing steady, your gestures slow, your tone measured. You make people feel that you are unshakable, and once they feel it, they treat you like it's true. See, the thing about presence is, it's contagious. When you carry yourself like a man in control, people adjust to you. They lower their voices. They choose their words more carefully. They move differently in your presence. And that's the kind of influence you can't buy. It's earned by how you present yourself every single day. But let me tell you something. Nonverbal dominance isn't about looking angry or trying to intimidate. That's just insecurity wearing a mask. True dominance doesn't need to threaten. It doesn't need to posture. It doesn't need to prove. It simply is. And that comes from knowing exactly who you are and exactly what you stand for. Your eyes are one of the most powerful tools you have. When you look at someone, really look, without flinching, without looking away, you send a message, I see you, I'm aware of you, and I'm not afraid of you. But here's the trick. It's not a stare down. It's not about trying to make them uncomfortable. It's about making them feel your presence without you having to compete for it. Your walk matters too. If you rush, if you shuffle, if you look like you're just trying to get from point A to point B, people read that as insecurity. But if you walk like you've got nowhere else to be, like every step is part of a plan, they notice. They feel the weight of your presence before you even speak. And let's talk about stillness. Stillness is one of the most underused tools in power. Because when everybody else is moving, fidgeting, adjusting, and you're just still, people notice. Stillness makes you magnetic. Stillness makes people turn toward you, wondering what's going on in your head. I've seen people try to win respect with words. Long speeches, clever lines, shouting to be heard. And I've seen other people walk into the same room, say nothing, and walk out with the deal. The difference, one needed words to be relevant. The other was relevant the moment he stepped in. The thing about nonverbal dominance is that it requires self-control. If you can't control your mind, your body will give you away. If you're nervous, your hands will show it. If you're angry, your eyes will show it. If you're unsure, your posture will show it. That's why mastering yourself, your emotions, your thoughts, your reactions, is the foundation for mastering your presence. And this is important. Your energy enters the room before you do. People feel you coming. They read the way you approach, the way you stand, the way you acknowledge them. If you approach with desperation, they feel it. If you approach with quiet confidence, they feel that too. Which one do you think gets more respect? Nonverbal dominance is about walking into any space and owning it without demanding it. It's about making people adjust to you without you having to adjust to them. It's about sending the message, I am in control, I am focused, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be, without ever having to say those words out loud. Because here's the truth. Words can be ignored. Words can be doubted. Words can be twisted. But presence can't be faked. You can't pretend to be calm when you're falling apart inside. You can't fake unshakable energy. People feel it in their bones, and once they feel it, they remember it. So when you step into a room, remember, you're speaking before you speak. Every gesture, every breath, every step is part of the story you're telling. And the man who learns to tell that story without words is the man who doesn't need them to begin with. See, there's talking about what you're going to do, and then there's just doing it. No announcement, no broadcast, no victory lap, just silent execution. That's the part most people never master. Because everybody wants to be seen working. They want the credit before the result. They want the applause before the victory. But that's weakness. That's the need for validation before the mission's even complete. The strong man doesn't need that. He doesn't need to tell you his plan. He doesn't need to warn you about what's coming. He just does it and lets you deal with the impact when it's done. I've seen it too many times. People talk themselves out of greatness by talking too much about it. They get so wrapped up in telling the world what they're going to achieve that they spend more energy on the performance than the work. And then, when it comes time to deliver, they've got nothing left. That's why I tell you, keep it quiet. Keep it close. Let them think you're asleep. Let them think you're not moving, and then strike when it's time. Silent execution is a weapon because it robs people of the chance to prepare for you. The moment you speak your plan, you open the door for resistance. You give people time to counter, time to block you, time to tear down your idea before it's born. But when you keep it in the dark, they can't stop what they don't see coming. There's power in mystery. When people can't predict your next move, they can't control you. And here's the thing, the most dangerous man in the room isn't the one bragging about what he's about to do. It's the one who says nothing, and then one day you realize he's already done it. I remember being on a set once, working with a young actor. Every break, he'd talk about the roles he wanted, the projects he was going to work on, the big dreams he had. And there was another actor there, older, quieter, barely said a word between takes. Months later, that quiet man was headlining a film, and the loud one was still talking about what he was going to do someday. That's the difference. One talked, the other executed. Execution without noise is discipline. It's the ability to work without needing a cheerleader in the room. It's knowing that applause means nothing if you haven't crossed the finish line. It's the quiet grind at 4 a.m. when nobody's watching, the discipline to do it again the next day and the day after that. You want to know the truth. Most people aren't afraid of your plans. They're afraid of your results. But here's the trap. If you announce those results before they're ready, you give them time to prepare for you. You give them time to cut you off. You provide them with time to sabotage. But if you move in silence by the time they hear about it, it's too late. It's done. The deal's signed. The move's been made. The crown's already on your head. There's a reason military strategy values surprise. You don't announce the date, the place, or the method. You prepare in the shadows, you plan in the quiet, you move in the dark. And when you strike, it's decisive. That's what silent execution is. Not just in war, but in business, in life, in anything that matters. You don't have to prove yourself with words. You prove yourself with results. And results don't need a speech. They don't need a parade. They speak for themselves. That's why the man who executes in silence is always 10 steps ahead. Because while others are wasting breath, he's already building. While others are seeking attention, he's already finishing. While others are making promises, he's already delivering. Silent execution isn't about hiding forever. It's about choosing the right time to reveal. And when that time comes, it's not about bragging. It's about letting the outcome speak so loudly that you never have to. Think about the most powerful moves in history. They weren't announced with trumpets before they happened. They happened quietly, and the world woke up different the next day. The quiet worker is underestimated, and that's the advantage. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you're slow. Let them think you're lazy. Let them think you're not even in the game. And then, while they're laughing, you've already crossed the finish line, and they're wondering how you got there without them noticing. You can't underestimate how dangerous patience is when it's paired with consistent action. Silent execution isn't laziness. It's a storm that builds slowly, quietly, without drawing attention. And by the time it breaks, it's unstoppable. And I'll tell you something else. Silence protects your focus. The moment you start sharing your plan with others, you invite their opinions, doubts, and negativity. You give them the chance to plant seeds in your head that don't belong there. But when you keep it to yourself, there's no interference, no noise, just you and the mission. You see, there's a rhythm to execution. Some moves need to be fast. Some need to be slow. Some need to be public. Some need to be invisible until they're done. Knowing when to reveal and when to conceal, that's mastery. And most people never learn it because they're too addicted to the attention they get from talking. But not you. You learn to shut your mouth and open your eyes. You learn to keep your head down until it's time to lift it high. You learn to let your work do the talking because that's the only voice that truly matters in the end. So when you think about your goals, your moves, and your ambitions, ask yourself this: am I building in silence? Am I protecting my work from the world's noise until it's strong enough to stand on its own? Or am I giving it away too soon? Because the man who learns to move without announcing, the man who learns to execute without noise, is the man nobody can stop. Not because he's invisible, but because he's inevitable. Now you've seen it, every piece of the puzzle. Silence isn't weakness, it's control. It's the discipline to hold your tongue when the world is begging for your reaction. It's the patience to watch the game unfold, knowing you'll make your move when the time is right. It's the power to create mystery, to listen more than you speak, to restrain when others are reckless, to command a room without a single word, and to execute in a way nobody saw coming. The man who learns this, he stops chasing. He stops proving. He stops performing for people who don't matter. He builds in the shadows and lets the results step into the light. You don't have to fight for attention. You make attention come to you. You don't have to shout for respect. You carry yourself in a way that demands it. And you don't need to tell them what you're going to do. You let them see it when it's already done. Stay silent, stay patient, stay deliberate, and I promise you, everything you're chasing will find its way to you. Not because you begged for it, not because you demanded it, but because you became the kind of man the world cannot ignore.